Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and welcome back to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We definitely want to welcome you back. This is episode 230 of the Snob OS Show, and we are going to jump right on in it because we got a lot of Apple-related stuff to talk about. So specifically, the invites finally went out. We finally have a date for Apple's September event. The date is September 12th, and they call it an Apple event, but most of the time in September, the Apple event is all about the iPhone. For those who haven't been paying attention, the next phone up, if it's still named this, which I don't see a reason why it won't be, is the iPhone 15. Like I said, they have this Wonderlust invite image.
Right.
That's
And you know we got to parse the image.
I never do this, so you're good. You're better at this than I am. But from the image that's on the invite, it's an Apple logo, and it looks like it's being Thanos snapped to where it's
To
kind
me,
of.
it
Go
looks
ahead.
like sand. To me, it looks like sand.
Sand. Okay.
And
Okay.
it's like being blown.
Okay. Got you.
I see but now that you say it, I do see the Thanos snap type of generation.
Thanos dust.
Yeah, the dust. Yeah. But to me, it looks like sand.
Okay.
But I mean, who knows?
All right. And then they've got the title Wonderlust. I'm not even sure what that means.
Or
but
maybe
at any
like
rate,
like pixie dust, like when Tinkerbell like blows the pixie dust, it gives you like the whole like we're in like a fantasy type thing.
I guess my question is, how does that relate to what we think Apple is going to announce? And might as well get right into it. Like I mentioned, this is typically an iPhone event, to where they most likely will announce the upcoming iPhone 15, the design and the specific features to the device. They're also, in most cases, are going to announce the software that goes along with it. In this case, it'll be iOS 17. They'll also announce, in most cases, iPadOS 17, and then watchOS 10, and maybe even tvOS 17. They, in most cases, will also announce the next watch, which will be the Apple Watch Series 9. And if they continue with the Apple Watch Ultra lineup, it'll be the Apple Watch Ultra 2. So I guess my question is, with all of those, the iPhone 15, and then of course the iPhone 15 Pro, and then the Pro Max, or the iPhone 15 Ultra that's been thrown around as well. So I guess with all of those announcements and devices and software, I'm still trying to figure out how the image ties in to those products, unless they are announcing something that hasn't been leaked or hasn't been talked about to death already.
Yeah. I think once we get we normally get a VR image with this, meaning like a 10-second where the actual image associated with the event moves. So when they had the last event, when I saw the actual graphic that moved, I saw what looked like a headset in the little graphic, in the like 5-second graphic. To me, I was like, oh, that looks like a headset on somebody's head. To me, that's what it looked like. It looked like that in one frame, and in another frame, it looked a bit like the Swift logo. And we know at that event, we got the Apple Vision Pro, and then we got like, I think, a huge update to the Swift tool, which is the interface, the programming language that Apple uses for their software. So I think once we get the VR image, maybe when I see it move, that may give me some sort of indication. But right now, just seeing how, it's like this pixie dust type thing, it just gives me like you know, let me, take you into an alternative world, like, pixie dust from, like I said, that what I think of is Tinkerbell when she blows the dust on the kid's eyes and it's like, oh, let's take you into this faraway land. To me, either that, but it kind of looks like sand.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe when I see the moving image, that will give me some idea. Or otherwise, I'll just wait until the 12th and see what it's all about.
All right. So I did a quick Google,
Mm-hmm.
and Macworld has their ideas or clues that they think is hidden within this Wonderlust event logo slash icon. So first one they have is the colors. There's in the logo or in the icon, it's a kind of like a blue color. So they're
Mm-hmm.
maybe saying that the new iPhone 15 and or the 15 Pro will have some sort of blue hue to that color. So they'll
Maybe
add,
a new color.
right, a new color, which is like this soft blue color. The next one is titanium, since the other color is kind of like a metal gray slash
Mm-hmm.
color in the logo. So that kind of goes along with titanium. So maybe the iPhone 15 Pro and the Pro Max, or
Maybe the
15,
Ultra will only come in these two colors.
or the metal will
Yeah.
be titanium instead of aluminum, which is whatever the current 14 will be. So
Mm-hmm.
titanium may be the metal housing for the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the this is dumb, but the I'm just gonna read it because just to let y'all know I ain't come up with this. The tagline "Wonderlust" is an
uh,
obvious play on the German word "Wanderlust," which means, quote, strong longing for or impulse toward wandering, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary. So in
mm,
this case, the term means strong longing for or impulse toward amazement or curiosity. It just so happens that the iPhone 15 Pro Max is expected to introduce a periscope zoom lens with 6 times optical zoom, twice that of the iPhone 14 Pro. If that doesn't make us lust for wonder, I don't know what would. Again, that sounds stupid.
that is stupid. The only thing that kind of sounds remotely maybe something kind of goes along with my thought of like pixie dust, because it does look kind of dusty where it's like wonderment or magical or something, but I still
Mhm.
don't see how that translates
Well,
into
I'm thinking like a telescope, right? If you
uh
are a person that likes to look at the stars through a telescope, you
um,
actually are taken into this world of stars and you're looking out and you're wondering about the stars,
mm,
wanderlust, because
mm.
the iPhone 15 has a periscope zoom lens which will enable you to zoom in much farther, as if you are wandering farther than your eye can actually see. They should have
I
called it,
guess.
in my opinion, if you're going to use a periscope zoom lens on anything, much less an iPhone 15, they should have changed the name of it to Nosy Lust. Because you're being nosy if you need to zoom in that close on
Why
something.
you looking that close at something? Like, are they trying to help like the paparazzi? You know
Mhm.
how they have those super long lenses on their cameras to like get shots of people?
Right,
Like,
maybe, I don't know.
ooh, I don't
So
know.
they
This is
continue with
weird.
their, guesses or hints.
Guesses. Uh-huh.
The next one is Apple Watch. So the term wanderlust pertains to traveling, and there's no better travel companion than an Apple Watch, which wrong. No better companion than your actual phone, but we get it. Apple Watches are recent Apple Watch Series 9. But the Apple Watch Ultra 2 may have a dual frequency GPS system, which I
Mm.
guess to give it more tracking. So if you out wandering and get lost, you can use this new GPS system in your Apple Watch to find your way back. And then the last one is, according to this, they said the dust or the pixies, like you mentioned, could be sound waves.
Hmm.
So which kind of leads into my next story.
New
New AirPods, whether it be AirPods Max or AirPods Pro or whatever the newest
AirPod
generation.
Ultra. Like,
Right,
what's
right.
next? Everything's getting to be Ultra now.
Right. But like I said, this leads into kind of like my next story. In addition to a new version of the AirPods 2 or AirPods Pro 3 or whatever the numbers are behind the AirPods, AirPods Pro, and AirPods Max, specifically with the AirPods Pro, we may see a USB-C AirPods be released. Right now, the current way to charge up the AirPods Pro is with the lightning cable. If we are to assume that the iPhone 15 will switch over to USB-C, the thought is that the AirPods will follow suit. So maybe the AirPods Max will come USB-C. I think that's still lightning. The AirPods Pro and all the other ones are lightning right now. So maybe the new
Maybe everything is switching over to USB-C now.
right. I guess Apple has finally decided, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and switch
Fine.
everything over, because right now the only thing that is USB-C is the iPad and the MacBooks. So you know, with all the handhelds, still most of them are lightning. The AirPods, the iPhone, the Apple Watch, which it's not even a port on it, but I guess you can buy a MagSafe to be either USB-C or lightning. So do you think this is Apple's going to do this, or you think they're going to hold off as far as possible, since there's no, the UK said the smartphones are supposed to be USB-C by this time next year? You think Apple's going to jump the gun and just make everything USB-C now, or you think they're going to wait as long as possible?
I think Apple is just that petty.
Okay.
I think they are just that petty to say, fine, we don't want to give you this, but this is what you want. Here, take it. We're not going to give you any cables. We're not going to give you any cords. You want USB-C. You said you had so much USB-C stuff. Use USB-C cables you already got, because we are not going to give you any. You know, I guess, you know, it kind of makes sense, because we've seen Apple try to sync everything. You know, when it comes like Apple Silicon, you know, they want to phase out all of the Intel processors. So it seems feasible, and honestly, it seems reasonable for them to say, fine, you know, we already have two of our major products on USB-C. We got this UK thing hanging over us. If we have the supply, let's go ahead and do them all, because we know that we still have significant supply chain issues. So if we have them, if our manufacturers make enough of them for us, let's just go ahead and get everything done, and we don't have to worry about flipping between lightning and USB-C. Everything will be USB-C, and we'll get a bunch of people off of our back, and then, you know, we'll be done. I personally am hoping for new AirPod Maxes. I'm hoping for a little bit of a redesign on the AirPods as well as the Apple Watch, because I do have a Series 8 Apple Watch. I did not want to buy it, but I think I was still on either Series 5 or 6, I think, because I was waiting for the redesigned Apple Watch that they had been promising me, but it never showed up. And then my watch just died from being in the ocean, which is waterproof, but it just decided I don't want to work no more. And so
you gotta turn on the little bubble thing, the little teardrop thing to close all.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you
and
did?
It was fine.
Okay.
I did. And the thing is, it wasn't like I was even that deep. It was like, it was working fine. It was like the last day of vacation was like, let's go to the ocean one last time. And I wasn't even, you know, that deep into it. And it was fine. And then I get home and I start to try and charge it. It'll charge up just fine. Then within like 20 minutes, like, oh girl, you need to charge again. And I'm like, frack me, man. And I was forced to get this Series 8, which I really didn't want, because I wanted to wait for the redesign. So if the Apple Watch is redesigned, I'm definitely going to pick that up. And if the AirPod Max is redesigned, I'm definitely going to pick that up. But all around the world to say, I hope we get some newness around AirPods.
Gotcha. So, so we can get right into it. That was my next kind of like little subtopic. You know, what do you want
Mm-hmm.
to see out of the
Mm-hmm.
next Apple event? I don't believe that they are going to redesign the Apple Watch Series 9.
Mm-hmm.
What I think they've done is, all right, you got the regular quote unquote Apple Watch Series 9, and then you've got the Apple Watch Ultra, which
Mm-hmm.
has the different design. It has the action button. It has the bulkiness of a activity watch. And then it's on you if you want regular or you want new design, right? That's my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't see them
Yeah.
redesigning the Apple Watch Series 9. What I do think they're
That's
going to
sad.
do, what I want to see rather, is I want to see the iPhone 15
Mm-hmm.
resemble the Apple Watch Ultra without the bulkiness. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the look of the Ultra.
It's a
Reason
bit
why
more square.
it's a bit more square. Like I said, it has the titanium
Mm-hmm.
versus the aluminum,
Mm-hmm.
which supposedly supposed to make the phone lighter because my 14 Pro Max is heavy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the titanium makes it a little bit lighter, makes it feel better in my pocket. And with the titanium, it may be a little bit more of a different color than the space gray or the space black. I'm not sure what they call black. I always get black.
And space gray mixed up. Yeah.
Well, I always get black, and I don't know if they call it space gray or space black, but it ain't really all that black.
It's like a matte gray.
Right, right. But the Apple Watch Ultra only came in that silver color.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure yet. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I'm not sure if I want to step up to the Ultra. I very well could, simply because the Apple Watches that I get the stainless steel
Mm-hmm.
version of the Apple Watch, which bumps up the price
Yeah.
almost to the same price as the Apple Watch Ultra. So it's like, I really ain't doing that much different. I ain't paying a whole bunch of extra money because I would upgrade the Apple Watch anyway. So if the Apple Watch Ultra comes in a space gray or space black, whatever Apple calls black,
Mm-hmm.
I may just pick that up because one, the iPhone 15, if they redesign it to look like the Apple Watch as far
You
as
want them to match.
I want them to match exactly. So I'll get a new phone that has the Apple Watch Ultra look, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll get a new Apple Watch Ultra because it has the same color as the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So my
that's
thing
just
is,
go ahead.
yeah. So my thing is, if they aren't going to do a redesign for 9, the Ultra, um, for me,
Bulky.
it's too masculine.
Okay.
I'll say it that way. It's too masculine for me. It's not um maybe soft is maybe not the word, but
Mhm.
it's too it's
Rigid.
one is too bulky, it
Mhm.
is too rigid, it is too thick. It's not a look that I would want to wear every day.
Okay.
And you can tell by my Apple Watch now, I have like a a different color band. It has like a little charm on it. So, I don't think there are any wristbands that I could change out from the Ultra that I could wear, to pretty much anything. You can have your sporty look, you can have your classic look, you can have like your going out look. The Ultra to me is not very versatile. That's the word I need. It's not
Mhm.
very versatile for the way I live my life with, an Apple Watch. And I'm used to having it on my wrist. It's another accessory like your phone that you kind of always have with you. And for me, if they aren't going to redesign the Series 9 and they are going to keep the Ultra, okay, Siri, I did not talk to you. It's one of those things, or it's one of those things where it just doesn't work for me.
Got you. Now, one thing that I will have to consider, I don't have a bunch of them, but I got about a half dozen Apple Watch bands for the non-ultra Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told by Apple employees, but I've never tested it to try it out. Regular Apple Watch bands do not fit on an Apple Watch Ultra. So I haven't spent a lot of money, but I've spent, nice chunk of change
You have
on,
investments in your looks.
of Apple Watch bands. And that
Right.
will be a bummer if
Yeah.
none of the Apple Watch regular bands fit on the Apple Watch Ultra, and I'll have to almost be starting from scratch. So that
You will
may
be starting from
bump
scratch.
up the price. I was saying earlier that, I'm not paying that much difference because I upgrade the watch to a nicer, more rigid version, not rigid,
Mm,
more scratch resistance, the stainless
mm,
steel, and the whatever the name of the glass on the stainless steel versions are less scratch resistant than the aluminum version, and the
right.
regular glass on the regular Apple Watch series, the aluminum version.
Right.
So, but like I mentioned, if I have to get new bands, I either have to give these away or sell them, which would be a
Mhm.
bummer because you know, I spend a nice little chunk of change on that.
And you want them. They go with their different looks because, like I said, most people who are in the Apple Watch family, they don't really, it goes with them, like pretty much everything else. And you adjust because all these third parties, even Apple, have all these different type of bands that allow you to customize your watch for whatever scenario that you're in. And, if you can't really make it work for what you're doing, then to me, it's like, I don't know. I
Right,
don't think
right.
that definitely, and the screen is way too big. I have small wrists and the
Okay.
screen is even bigger. I already have like the 45 and it's like, wow, this is large. So I can't even imagine the size of the Ultra. It just
Got you.
the Ultra, it just doesn't work with my lifestyle, which is why I was hoping that they gave us the Ultra. Maybe they use this time to come up with something new.
Or chisel it down at the very least.
Yeah. Yeah, make it a little bit thinner, make it a little bit sleeker, something. But I guess we'll see.
All right, all right. So the only other things, since we're talking about the Apple event and what they're going to announce, I guess we could get into some rumors and leaks and things like that. So
Okay.
of course, we mentioned USB-C on the iPhone 15. We mentioned maybe a titanium case. Um, let's see what else. There may be a slightly larger display. Apple reportedly will shrink the screen bezels. Definitely looking forward to that, to where the gap from the screen to the edge of the phone will get even smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said, maybe a little bit. Well, as a result of that, the screen is going to get a little bit bigger. Maybe some different colors. We mentioned the blue color. Of course, is going to have probably a faster chip. I want to say it's the Apple A17 processor. I'm not sure what specs that's going to have, but of course, Apple's going to say, oh, it increases battery life and it decreases this. And every day loose, you're going to get, X amount
It's
of.
this percent better. It's this
Yeah,
percent
right, right,
better
right,
performance, battery life, all that stuff. Yeah.
right. I can't think of anything else. Well, another thing that they mentioned might happen is that all of the phone lines, the 15, 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, um, are they going to come out with a Pro? So they have the iPhone 15,
Mm-hmm.
iPhone 15 Pro,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Pro Max. Wasn't there another
Mm-hmm.
one? Is it Plus? Is it the 14? When they come out with
So,
an
but the
iPhone?
but the plus, I think the plus was like back in the single digits. No, we didn't have a 12 plus. I
Yeah,
think
they have an iPhone 14. They have an iPhone, the current version. They have
right.
the 14, they have the
The
14
Pro.
Plus, they have
They
the
have a
14
14 Pro.
Pro, and then they have the 14 Pro Max. So, all that to say, all around the world to say, all of the devices, the iPhone 15s are going to get the dynamic island. When
Mm-hmm.
in last year for the 14, only the Pro and the Pro Max got the dynamic island. The 14 and the 14 Plus got that hut hit. What does they call it? notch. They call it the
The
notch,
notch.
right? Which doesn't do the extra special things. Which, I hardly. If I'm being honest with myself, I hardly ever use the dynamic island. So it was
I use a
flattering.
dynamic island all the time. I
Do
like it
you?
a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And it looks like it's 14 Pro. It doesn't look it's a Max. I mean a Plus. It just looks like 14 Pro and Pro Max. I didn't think the pluses. I thought the pluses were like a long time ago.
Nope. The iTeam. Nope. I just looked it up on Apple's website. They've got a 14, a 14 Plus, 14 Pro, and a 14 Pro Max.
Okay, I must have got the wrong place because I'm on the Pro line. Because that's where I went. I was like, I don't see it. Because I see like the iPhone SE. It basically shows the list: iPhone SE, iPhone 13, iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro. Okay, I must definitely be looking at the not at the right place on the Apple website because I don't see anything plus where I'm looking. But I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, so that was the only other things that I could think of as far as rumored features that could come out. With the, I think, like I said, with the Apple Watch, they're going to come out with the Ultra 2, which may have a different color. And then the 14 Pro, maybe the Pro Max will have a 48 megapixel camera. As opposed to, I'm not sure what the current ones are at, maybe 40 megapixel. And other than that's pretty much it. Maybe they will announce new MacBooks, but I don't think so. Maybe they'll hold that to a November or October or November event.
Yeah, I think
and
they'll
then
hold that.
iPads. I'm not sure what they're going to do with iPads. Are they going to announce that in the October event, or are they going to announce that along with the September event? So I think most people are waiting on the new iPad Pro line, which I'm not really jazzed about, to be honest, simply because I don't use my iPad like that. So right now I have a M1 iPad Air, which does me just fine. I did recently found a good deal. So I bought the Magic keyboard with the touch, with the little touch screen, not touch screen, with the trackpad on it.
Yeah.
I got a almost half off. I found a good deal on it.
Nice.
The jury's still out on whether or not I like it for one reason.
Really?
With the regular keyboard folio, I could fold the keyboard all the way around and it'd be flat, and I could hold it and look at the iPad flat without having the keyboard
having some bulk behind it.
Right. With this magic keypad, I forget what they call it, you can't flip it all the way around. You either have to set it up in quote unquote laptop mode to where it sits up, or you have to take it off in order to hold it flat like a traditional tablet. So I'm not sure if I'm not, jury's still out on that one. But like I said, I my old keyboard that joint was starting to come apart, like literally on the edges. It was starting to peel. So I was like, all right, I got to do something. So I did some research. I was going to get another one of the regular keyboards, and I was like, well, let me just get this one because it's half off. So jury's still out. Again, I hardly use my iPad like that. Maybe this will force me to use it a little bit more and actually use a trackpad. But I'm not sure if I'm still sold on that yet. So all that to say, all the way around the world to say, there are some people who may be interested in iPad Pro. I probably won't get this one. I'll probably stick with my M1 iPad Air if Apple announces new iPads either in September or October.
Okay, so it was going to bug me. I did find the Plus.
Okay.
It was just under the regular standard iPhone 14, but I don't go over there because that ain't my skill set. I don't really care what they're doing over there. I'm all in on the Pro line. As far as the iPad Pro, I could be talked into it. Okay. I do have an older iPad Pro, and I've been thinking about upgrading. So if they do have one, I may be able to be slightly coerced into procuring a new iPad Pro. But I think the rock star of this event is going to be the iPhone. And I think really anything outside of that is going to be quite ancillary. So if I was Apple, if I had something, on the the MacBook hardware line, and possibly even on the iPad line, I would hold it. I would, I would wait it out, because if we're getting a new iPhone, hopefully we're getting a new watch, and hopefully we're getting new AirPods. So everything can kind of center around what goes into the iPhone itself, the peripherals. You got your watch, you got your headphones, those types of things. If they have something new for MacBook or iPad, I don't even know if it would warrant another event. It may just be kind of like how we had them before. They just did the video and said, "Hey, here's some new stuff.
Right.
Go look at the video. It's in the App Store. It's in the Apple Store. It's available. Go and buy it if you want." So I think that may be more, likely along those lines, because they've been powering through these Apple events like nobody's business. They have been going so fast, and it's like you really almost can't even keep up with what the event has to offer or what you're seeing, because it's just so fast, and it's just like, chill, like let us catch our breath, let us have a little bit of something before you rush off into the next thing. So hopefully they'll be able to spend more time on the top winning or the, what's the word I'm looking for, the top tier devices. And it's going to center around the iPhone. So if I were them, but I'm not them, but if I was, and if you need people to do that, I will take a job, but it's one of those things where I don't think it's necessary for the event personally.
All right. Well, you mentioned AirPods Max. You mentioned hopefully they release a new version, maybe some new colors, a new design specifically. There are some people out there who are currently having problems with the current version of the AirPods Max, specifically condensation problems.
Interesting.
And looking at condensation, I think they mean sweat problems, because what some users are reporting, if you are using your AirPods Max and you are working out hard, and maybe you are just a heavy sweater, which I am, or you're actually putting in the work to where you are doing a lot of sweating, the AirPods Max are either catching and keeping the condensation from your sweat, and actually that is leaking into the AirPods Max, which is messing the AirPods Max up to where headphones are reportedly temporarily malfunctioning or even stop working entirely in some cases due to moisture buildup after prolonged use. So people are reporting this. Apple hasn't said anything, according to this story that I'm reading in Mashable. They're saying people have been reporting this issue as early as January 2021, a few months after the headphones first launched. Now, I had a pair of AirPods Max. Them things are so expensive, I wouldn't dare wear them while I was exercising, because one, I know I'm a heavy sweater. If I think too hard, I'm gonna start sweating. Number two, they called at the time, they were like $500, almost $600. So I was like, I'm only going to use these when it's optimal, when it's the best time, when I know I'm not interrupted, I'm not
the
moving.
Optimal circumstances.
Exactly. And then the AirPods Pro 2 came out with their active noise cancellation, and the noise cancellation was just as good, if not better, or on par. Let me say that, on par with the noise cancellation in the over-the-ear AirPods Max. So I actually ended up selling my AirPods Max because the AirPods Pro 2 just did the job.
No.
But all that around the world to say, yeah, I had AirPods Max, and I didn't report this issue because I wasn't doing it like that. But there are some people who, you know, they if they're going to spend the money, they're going to use them everywhere, whether they're on an airplane, whether they are asleep, or
People
whether they.
use them at a gym a lot. I see most people at the gym, they have the AirPod Max. If not
Mhm.
the AirPod Max, then they have the Beats. But I see a significant amount of people with the AirPods Max. And my thing is, it's one of those things where maybe they need to add like a little eject button, like that, like you were mentioning when I was talking about being in the ocean with my Apple Watch,
Mhm.
a little eject thing. But at this point in time, if Apple wasn't already aware of the issue, I don't see how they can possibly fix this in time for a release if they're supposed to come out in what, 2 weeks.
Well, it
I don't.
depends, right? Even though this is a new story, like I mentioned, the issue has been reported as early as January 2021.
Okay,
So maybe Apple ain't saying nothing because they already
because
know, all
they're
right, we already on top of it. So just wait a couple
yeah.
weeks
And
and
that was
we'll.
my thing. I was like, I'm
Right.
not sure how much Apple knows about this, how aware they of the issue. But if they are aware, then yeah, then maybe it's remedied with the next release.
Yeah, and again, according to the story, is there is some sort of class action lawsuit that's currently stuck in
Oh
the
Lord.
California court system. So that would lead me to believe that Apple is aware and they just ain't gonna say nothing because boom, in 2 weeks, we got the new AirPods Pro Max with the, like you said, with the water eject seal button to where it closes up everything, or they've got a new design that
Yeah.
funnels the sweat
Yeah.
away from the drivers, which if any sort of, I mean, if you any sort of audiophile, moisture and drivers do not go together at
Hmm.
all, so it's very plausible to me that, if you are doing a lot of sweating and that sweat comes down off your head and rolls down into those muffs and it gets into
Hmm.
that drive, it's very plausible that it could damage the AirPods Max. So I'm not surprised that this is an alleged issue. But what's interesting is, what is Apple going to do about it? Are they just not going to do anything, or are they
Yeah.
going to announce a new line of AirPod Max that resolves this issue?
Yeah. I'm surprised, but not surprised that there's a lawsuit. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like, really, are you doing a class action lawsuit for this? Because again, it seems to be an issue for a very specific population who uses these.
Mhm. People with a lot of moisture on their head.
Right. It is one of those things where, yeah, you do the reasonable amount of testing and the reasonable amount of design for a reasonable amount
Of the
of
population.
moisture.
Right.
Right.
And
So
most people
yeah,
don't sweat like that.
right. Where it causes your AirPods to malfunction like that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I knew what time it is for me, and I was like, "Nope, not gonna be doing that."
not gonna get me.
All right, so the next story in the lowdown is, it seems like Apple is they were being as helpful as possible no matter how you contact them, whether you
Mhm.
are calling Apple support, whether you are um, going to their website, giving them a phone call, or if you have Apple Care, or if you are reaching out to Apple on Twitter, if you're reaching out to them in their comment section of their YouTube videos, or in their Apple support community online. If
Mhm.
you were doing any of those latter things, Apple is like, yeah, we off that. So it seems like,
Y'all wanted self-service. We gave you a manual. Have at
right.
it.
So apparently, Apple employees will soon stop providing assistance to customers via Twitter, YouTube, and the Apple support online community. Which, where I go there a lot of times before
Yeah.
I go anywhere. I
Yeah.
go to the Apple
Because
support community.
someone's had my issue,
Yeah,
and
right.
it's been fixed. It's the solution is in there.
Exactly. So
So that's
according
kind of
to
sad.
Right. So, according to the story in The Verge, Apple reportedly plans on getting rid of its social media support advisor roles including the paid community of specialists online. Over 150 over 150 employees will be affected, but Apple won't necessarily lay them off, which I don't know if this is a what is it, consolation prize or not. Apple will offer these workers an opportunity to switch to a phone-based support role, which I would be out. That would nope, I'm
Nope.
out. I
No,
would
thank
prefer
you.
yeah, I would prefer to tweet at you. I prefer to answer
Let's get on
comments.
this chat real quick.
Right. I am not about to get on no phone call. So I'd be looking
Nope.
for a new job if I was these
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
So according to the story, the changes are supposed to take place October 1st.
Wow. In about a month.
Users on Twitter. I refuse to call it X because that's just silly.
That's stupid.
Users on
Your mama
Twitter.
is Twitter. I'm calling Twitter.
Right. Users on Twitter will receive automated messages directing them elsewhere for help. So if like you reach out or you at Twitter or you DM you DM Apple on Twitter, you'll automatically get a automated response saying, hey, this ain't the place for that. Give us a call, go into the store, make an appointment, do whatever you got to do. But we ain't about to help you on Twitter. And the same goes for the comment section of YouTube videos. So Apple does have a pretty active YouTube channel where they put out Apple support, just random videos on tips on how to do this and how to do that. And a lot of people have been commenting under those videos, and it looks like questions. Yeah, it looks like Apple has been answering those questions in YouTube. Well, all that ain't happening anymore. So we will see, what happens with this. In my opinion, I would think the opposite. I would think they would force more people to get their issues resolved without having to talk to a live person, because that's more time. That's, time that people have to spend on the phone, because I'm not a phone person, but there are people who love to talk on the phone. And as long as that clock is running, that means more money out of their pocket. So you would assume, well, if I can chat with you, I could chat with 2 or 3. If I'm a good specialist where I can multitask, I could chat with 2 or 3 people at the same time versus being on the phone. I'm held up on that one person.
That's all I can do. Yeah.
Who's giving me their sob story. Cause I have been a support specialist in the past. And when you get people on the phone, oh my God, they want to give you their life sob story that may or may not have anything to do with why they call in, so I can imagine being somebody that's used to going to the online support forum or rapid fire answering people via chat and or comments on YouTube, and then you tell me I have to get on the phone with them. No, sir.
I'm really surprised that they're getting rid of the support community. That's surprising. Twitter, I kind of get it, because Twitter is not the Twitter of old, and it's like, we're not going over there with that mess. So that I kind of get. I can see how YouTube comments can probably get a
spammy.
Yeah. But the support community, I'm really surprised by that. And I wonder if the whole switching to the phone thing is a way to get people to come into the office. It's like, we need you to come into the office for this phone role. Thanks.
Right.
And you can't, it's like one of those things where they want you, butts and seats in the building. That's kind of like my first thought, because it's really counterproductive to kind of go back to the traditional phone support. So I never, thank God, had to professionally do phone tech support. Now in my family I have, and Jesus Christ, that is a lot. But in one role that I had on the R&D side, we had to do, people would, tech support can help us, blah, blah, blah. They'd escalate it up to engineering. And once it got to that point, I was having, because one of the products that I led, Facebook used a lot. And it got to the point where, to keep them happy, they were like, oh, well, you can talk to one of our engineers and have a question. So, I'd be on the phone with the CTO of Facebook and some of these other big companies. And it's just like, it really shows you how not smart some people are.
Oh my God.
And at that point, because they were executives, it's like you have like the kind of haughty nature
Mm-hmm.
into it. You know, it wasn't just Facebook. Facebook was one of them, but it was like a bunch of other, you know, high profile. Like one was like a big university, and it's just like it was like, this is not in my job description.
Right.
I'm not supposed to be on the phone babysitting people because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to use a
And
product.
hand
So
holding. Mm-hmm.
right. So if it's like that with those type of people, I can only imagine with your regular average American who is trying to, not even American, just your regular average person trying to get an issue resolved. Because by the time they get to the point where they need to call customer service, they're already pretty frustrated and
Mm-hmm.
annoyed. And to me, it seems like it would be an even bigger time suck because you can't multitask when you're doing this.
Mm-mm.
You have one person, one call type of thing. And God knows how long a call will last because people, like you said, go off on tangents. They get upset. It
They want to
seems
ask you
like,
about other things that ain't got nothing to
right.
do with the reason why they
Yeah.
call them. Like, hey, you need a new, you need to call for
Have,
that.
yeah. Have I resolved other issues? Yeah, you have. But what
Yeah.
about X? That's not why you called me. I need to
Mm-hmm.
end this call. But it seems to me that it would be an even bigger expense and time suck to basically force everybody. Because again, no Twitter support, no forum support, no YouTube support. So all of those people from those three areas that use those things for support, all of them are now going to be calling you.
Flood the Apple
Could you
original.
imagine?
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
only
yeah.
had 150 people that were doing this. You're going to need more than 150 people if you switch over to just phone based.
Right, right. So maybe, like you mentioned, maybe that's a way for companies like Apple to uh there's a term for it. We called it when employees were leaving companies, they called it quiet quitting, to
Mm-hmm.
where, you know, you would just completely stop overworking, stop
The
going
bare
above and
freaking minimum.
beyond, do the bare minimum until eventually you just fade it off, right?
Right.
There's a new terminology to where companies are kind of doing something similar. They're calling it quiet.
Quitting.
Uh, no, it's quiet resignation or quiet layoff or something like that, to where they're doing stuff like, oh, you got to be back in the office two or
Oh,
three
to
days a
force you
week.
to leave. They don't want
Right,
to have to, be the people in the news saying, oh, we had to lay off X many
right,
people. They're making the situation not optimal, least optimal. So you can say, you know what, man, forget this. I'm out of
right.
here.
And
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
ways, you know, Apple, I'm not saying they are, but if they were, one of the ways they could do it is like, yeah, we ain't doing this online support anymore. You got to be official Apple channel, right? Twitter's not
Mm-hmm.
official Apple. YouTube isn't official Apple. Even the Apple online community forums, that's Google or Safari or Edge or Chrome or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be. You know, Apple's like, all right, we need to use official Apple owned platforms. And in order to do that, we need official Apple people, and we need official Apple people in the official Apple office.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add all that up, and then all these 100 people, 50 people, it's like, well, I don't want to be on the phone, number one. And number two, in order to do it at the Apple way, I may have to go somewhere and be, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because, you know, I don't know how they do Apple customer support for people at home, but I'm pretty sure there's more involved versus you just tweeting at somebody or answering
Yeah.
YouTube comments. I can use my own computer for that.
Yeah.
I ain't got to use no
Yeah.
Mac. I don't have to use no iPhone. I ain't got to use
Yeah.
no Apple support special phone line. I just get
Mm-hmm.
on my phone. Apple give me a couple dollars part time, whatever they was paying these people, and I
Mm-hmm.
can go at it. Right. Well, now I
Yeah.
can't do that now. Now I need a Mac, especially from Apple, and VPN and tech
Yeah.
support and all this other stuff. And I was like, I ain't signing for all
That's a lot of
that.
extra effort that I'm not willing to put in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. So the next story I got, I think is the last one, which is surprising. Apple has changed their mind and actually is now supporting a the right to repair bill that's been in California. Apple has fought it. You know, we want to make sure that the customer experience is unique. You know, we don't want people putting fake Apple parts on phones and having these
Mm-hmm.
issues. We would rather our people fix our phones with our parts, yada, yada, yada. But it seems like Apple has kind of said, hey, you know what? We should make it easier for people to fix their own devices. They haven't really said how, but it's just the news in and of itself that Apple has decided to support this particular bill in California, this right to repair bill in California. Is kind of like, what? Wait a minute, Apple, what's going on? You know, there's really no way. Again, like I said, in the stories that I've read, there's no specific way that Apple is supporting right to repair, like not requiring screens to have a serial number that matches up with the logic board on the actual phones. Because the way it works now is if you want to get a phone fixed, it's the serial number is connected to the logic board and the battery and the screen and all these other things, to where if you get a non-serialized one, it's not going to sync up. And in order to get it to work, you know, Apple's got to put it through their specific tool that links up the screen to the logic board in order for
basically
it to
verify that it is what it is.
Right. Apple hasn't come through and said, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. Apple hasn't come through and said, oh, you don't have to use Apple certified tools. Apple hasn't said we're going to give regular old mom and pop repair shops access to our what they call it, troubleshooting is not the right word, verification tools. You know, I'm pretty sure Apple has some software that people can download and install that'll enable them to plug up their Apple devices to it, and it'll run through what is the name of that thing? It's called a anyway.
And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out where you go, and I'm like, not sure.
A piece of software that you can, diagnostics, that's the word. That's
okay.
That's what I was looking for. I'm pretty sure Apple could sell or offer their own diagnostics tools to mom and pop third-party repair shops, to where if they want to pay for it, they can get that software, and then they can plug up their customers' devices, know that it's going through this official Apple diagnostic tool that'll better help them identify the issues. Apple said none of that. They ain't said how they're going to support this. They just said we support it. So everybody's trying to figure out how the Apple's going to do it. But like I said, in and of itself, Apple doing this about face, for lack of a better term, on right to repair is kind of got everybody thinking, all right, what's Apple going, how are they going to fix it? Why are they doing this? Does it have something to do with, you know, California putting too much pressure on them? You know, is it, you know, why has Apple decided all of a sudden to support right to repair?
So first off, I did do a Google because it was bugging me what they call the opposite of, well, the employee side of quiet quitting is called quiet cutting.
Cutting. Okay.
Quiet cutting. Right.
Gotcha.
So my thing is, so Apple is supporting this bill. Are they just supporting it in the fact to say, okay, you can have this, but are they not going to provide any tools? So the support is a verb. So what's the action behind this particular support that Apple is giving to this bill? Because they haven't indicated what this includes. It could just be, okay, if you want to fix your own phone or you want to take it to a third party, okay. But is it one of those things where it's like, you can take it to them. If they can't fix it, we not going to fix it.
Right.
After you have somebody else tinkering
There's gonna be a
with
catch,
it.
I'm assuming.
It's definitely a catch. And I think that catch is, you know, people saying, we want to fix our own phones. Let's fix our phones. And they did have that self-service repair program that we talked about before. And, you know, it's like, we'll give you the manuals, we'll give you the stuff. You can go and have at it. You know, it's one of those things for me. It's like, so they're like, okay, you can go and fix it yourself. But when you get into it, the specialized tools you need to repair an Apple device, the tiny, tiny little pieces that go into it, you start taking this thing apart and you got all these bits and pieces. You don't know how to put it back together. So it's one of those things of, it's like, so yeah, we're going to say you can do this because in the end, it'll be more business for Apple because you asked for this service to be able to repair your own device. We said, okay, go and do this self service repair on your own. We have, if this is what you want to do, this is what you do. But when it hits the fan, which in most cases it likely will, because I mean, you've done repair on devices before, and you've talked about how hard it is and all the intricacies that goes into that. And it's like, okay, that what you wanted, we're going to give it to you, but I don't think you really want what you're asking for. Right. So when you get it, what you're asking for, similar to some of the legal things that's going on here in Georgia, we gave you what you asked for, but now that you got it, you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This isn't what I thought it was. Like, like, what are you doing? And it's like Apple is saying, but this is what you wanted, and this is what you gave you. I think that's going to be likely the caveat. You can give people all the documentation in the world. You can even give them the tools, but it's the actual service. If you think about when you go to get your car repaired, the parts, all those things, you can get discounted parts. You can do all that stuff. But one thing you cannot change is the price of the actual labor. So that labor part, you gotta the actual labor, you have to be able to put a value on that. And that's usually one of the higher prices when you get something serviced, whether it be a car, whether it be your home, whether it be an electronic device, because you can't buy all the pieces and you can't do it yourself. But there is a level of expertise that needs to go into it when you get to the labor part of actually putting it together or doing the thing that needs to be repaired. And, you know, you can put a price on it, but sometimes the price is like, this is way harder, especially if you're a novice, especially if you're new to this. That labor price is going to be like, bruh, I did not intend to pay this. So I really think that's probably going to be the caveat, and the fact that if you do basically break the seal and do this yourself, as Apple, we can't take on that liability, because what if you broke something that you didn't know you broke, or tweaked something? If you kill the motherboard by not properly grounding or whatever it takes, and now you bring it to us and we can't fix it, and then you're gonna try and say I broke it. I don't want that liability. You break the seal, that's on you. You can't then bring it to us. You're gonna have to buy a new product.
Right. So to Apple's credit, for lack of a better term, Apple has in recent years made it a little bit easier for parts or service outside of Apple to be done. Specifically, maybe not to individuals like you kind of mentioned, but making tools available to repair shops. Like Apple's tools that they use, they're making those available to repair shops versus you having to go on Amazon, iFixit, some of these other places to get these parts. You can go to Apple because that's what they pick, you know, and that's what they use. So
and that's all a part of that self-repair program thing that they put in place.
Right. In addition to that, the iPhone 14, the current version iPhone 14, has been, according to some other sites, is the most repairable iPhone Apple has made in years. When I was repairing phones, my favorite phone to fix was probably the 5, the 6, no, not even 5, the 6, the 7, and the 8, I think, because those are super easy to pop the screen on, replace the battery, camera, speakerphone, port, the charger port, all those things that could normally go, volume buttons, things of that nature. When it got to the 9 and the 10 and the 11, that's when things got compacted, got smaller, got tighter. And at that point, I was like, look, I'm out.
Y'all want these thin phones. Y'all want these super sleek phones. Well, it comes at a cost. In order to have a thin phone, in order to have a certain bevel, a certain curve, we have to make these parts to fit that.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. And that's definitely what I was going to say. You can't have your cake and eat it too. People want smaller. They want shinier. They want faster. They want, you know, all these things. And then Apple's like, all right, bet. So we got to make it tighter in here. We got to make the parts connected to each other, soldered on, small. We got to do all that to get you this nice, smooth, slick, small, portable device. But then if you break it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I can't. How much is it costing? It shouldn't. I'm like, well, pick one. You either want new, best, shiniest, or you want easy to repair. I guarantee you, if Apple could be like, and this is they would, I use this term, chop off your nose to spite your face. What Apple could do is be like, all right, bet we're gonna make larger, thicker, bulkier phones.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Apple's doing. I don't understand this technology innovation. This is the best they can come up with. It's like, no, in order to make them more repairable, they have to, the parts have to be a certain size, they have to be a certain shape, and they have to sacrifice.
You got to pick
design.
Your poison. Yeah. And a lot of people talk about, how good you have to be a software engineer in Apple. And you do, but they have to have some top tier mechanical engineers. I know I had to take a couple mechanical classes, and man, and it was just like the first two levels, like the entry and then like another one. And I'm like, you can have this. I don't want no parts. No parts of this. And this is the time I was doing electrical and computer engineering. And it's like, this mechanical stuff, y'all can, I don't want it. I one class I took, and then like before drop, I was like, no thanks. I'll try this again another semester, because this is not it. And again, I say all that to say, because these phones are so thin, because the parts it's like a puzzle. Everything has a specific place, because they're notched certain ways, they're curved certain ways, they're shaped certain ways to fit in this very intricate puzzle. And even with some of the repair shops, they have to know how to prepare not just iPhones, but Androids and Windows phones, if those are still around, or, Pixels and all those types of things. And all those are different. And then what's the saying? What's the master of none? The something of something and master of none, meaning you have all of these skills that you
jack
can
of all
do.
trades.
Yeah, jack of all trades, but master of none. And it gets to the point where even in some of these, whether it be a mom and pop, whether it even be one of the bigger chains that do these repairs, it comes down to like, I don't know, going in there, it could be a little sus. It could go either way, really.
Right. All right. So that's all I got for the lowdown. We're going to move into second string, where we talk all things tech. And we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier about, you mentioned quiet cutting is what companies are starting to do to avoid layoffs, but at the same time, reduce overhead. Amazon is not quiet cutting at all. As a matter of fact, well, they kind of started doing quiet cutting, but now they just flat out, the Amazon CEO was like, look, if you thought you was going to be able to sit at the crib and do this remote work indefinitely, I got another thing. You got another thing coming. It's probably not going to work out for you. He says, this Amazon CEO, his name is Andy Jassy. He's the CEO. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Very sassy, right? Because he's like, according to his these quotes, he says, we looked hard at how we're working together as a team and asked our corporate employees to come back to the office at least 3 days a week, beginning in May. Back in April, he wrote, during the pandemic, our employees rallied to get work done from home and did everything possible to keep up with unexpected circumstances that presented themselves. It was impressive, and I'm proud of the way our collective team came together to overcome unprecedented challenges from our customers, communities, and businesses. But we don't think it's the best long-term approach, he added. This is back in April. Now, fast forward to now, he says flat out, it's past time to disagree and commit.
Them 3 days.
And if you can't disagree and commit, I also understand that. but it's probably not going to work out for you at Amazon because we're going back to the office at least 3 days a week in an internal memo, which I don't know why they even do these internal memos, because
They
people
know
are
they're
talking
gonna
a
leak.
bit to spread them out to the public. So I just wouldn't say nothing, but I guess they like, well, we got to say something to the employees. So, you know, he, addition to that, he took aim squarely at foot draggers, accusing them of receiving unfair treatment. He said it's not right for all of our teammates to be in 3 days a week, and for people to refuse to do so. Again, back in March, 30,000 Amazon employees signed an appeal to the company's human resources department to protest the return to office policy. It was later scrapped by HR head. So if you work at Apple, and I don't know how this works for people who were in the office pre-pandemic, and during the pandemic, Amazon was like, all right, y'all go work at home. And now Amazon is telling those people, now you got to come back into the office, or are they saying this for people who were remote to start with? Because I know people who work at Amazon and they were remote way before the pandemic happened. And I wonder if they are getting those same messages, or is it just referring to the people who were in the office? Amazon let them leave, and then they took it upon themselves to relocate to different states, change around their whole, you know, how they handled them, you know, household, whatever, to accommodate this remote work. And now they are, you know, resenting the fact that now they have to turn back around and go back in the office, when Amazon said they didn't put a timeline on it in the beginning. They was just like, look, get out of the office, go home. And it was kind of like a indefinite thing. And now they're kind of not necessarily,
it's definite now.
Yes, not necessarily reneging, but now they put a date on it, and people are like, oh man, my wife and
I thought I was gonna be able to do this. Yeah.
I didn't move. I didn't move to Texas, and you know, yada yada yada. And Apple and Amazon's like, oh, too bad, so sad. You know, I can see.
I think it's probably I think it's probably the latter, because you have remote classified employees, and if you were classified as remote before the pandemic, you will likely retain that remote status. I'm thinking it's for people who were in office and who are now back, because I know, you know, in my work situation, there were people who have always been remote, or they were hired as remote, and they got to continue to be remote. And you know, your little whatever system that your company uses, what you're classified as. If you're classified as an on-site, or whatever that term is, a person that's in office, if your classification didn't change, if you're just a part of the people who were in the office and like, well, this is pandemic, we don't know what this is, you know, go home and we'll figure it out later. We're now in the later to them, even though there's like a surge in this new variant of COVID, and we're supposed to be getting a new vaccine any day now because it's taking people out. It's one of those things where if you were classified as remote pre-pandemic, I would suspect that you would get to retain that. But if you were an in the office person who was told to work remotely, then those are people they expect to come back in the office. Now, if you're a remote classified person and they try and make you come in now, then you got a case. It's like, look, on my offer letter, it says this. This is what I agreed to. This is what I signed. And this is what you told me I would do. Now, if you're trying to change it, that's a different thing, rather than someone who said, I was in the office, pandemic hit, and y'all told us to go home, and then you let us know when to come back. Now, everybody's gotten really super comfortable with being at home, and they don't want to come back in. But these companies are like, well, you know, that's not what you signed up for. What you signed up for was to be in the office. And I get it, because I would not, when my company was telling people to come back in and this whole 3-day thing, I was like, I'm not doing it. And I did. And I did. I was like, I told better straight up. I was like, look, I'm not coming back in there. No thanks. And I didn't
Right.
have to.
Right. And like I said, I get it from both sides. But I think where the problem is for these companies is they gave the impression that this is the new way of doing work.
Working. Mm-hmm.
And people, acted accordingly, in some, major, not major, in some far out examples to where people have moved to different
Yeah.
states, to where
People have completely changed their life because this has
there's no,
been
yeah,
3-4 years we've been into this. Like, well, this looks like this is the way we're gonna work. So let me go ahead and do a little razzle dazzle.
yeah, they've moved to places where there is no satellite office. There is no quote unquote, corporate office or headquarters or whatever the case may be, so I get it that now you have to uproot or change
Mm-hmm.
your whole daily family dynamic. But at the same time, if there are companies out there who were always, we're just going to try to get through this, you had to know or eventually reckon with the idea that eventually
You were gonna
they
have to
was
go
going to
back.
say, hey, we need you to start to come back into the office.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I just wish, again, I would just wish companies would be honest and upfront with
Right.
their employees. They should have just said, this is a temporary thing. We don't know how long this is going to be because we're not the CDC, we're not the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So we don't know how long this is going to be. So just know that until we figure out a better solution, this is what it's going to be for the temporary time being. Once we
Yeah.
figure something out, once COVID clears up, or if we decide remote work is the best way to go, we'll keep you posted. But until then, this is temporary. Hold
Yeah.
tight. We'll figure it out. Or if companies just honestly said, look, we make money, we make more money when, or we spend less money when people are in the office. We are a for-profit company, and it looks better on our bottom line when people are in the office. So we're making you come back into the office because we need to make sure our board, our shareholders, our customers are happy. In order for us to do that, bring y'all butts back into the office. No, they're dancing. That's not what they're doing.
They're
They're
doing
dancing around.
these PR statements.
Yeah, come on, man.
People say that they like working in the office better. They know that nobody is saying that. People who are
Maybe
working
one
from
person is
home,
saying that. Person that
maybe
hates their
one,
life
maybe
at
few.
home.
And the thing is, you can go into the office. If you're one of the few that does not want to work in the office, you can go. I mean, that doesn't want to work at home anymore. You can go and work there 5 days a week, 10 hours a day if you want to. Nobody's stopping you. But
Right.
don't try and frame it to make it seem like, oh,
This is
people really want to
counterproductive.
come in.
Yeah.
Right. No, don't lie about it. Tell the truth. We got all these buildings. We still got to pay for it.
Right.
We have all of this equipment. We've invested in all of these things. And to be able to justify it, to pay for this, we need people to come in and use it. Otherwise, we are losing money. And if our bottom line is off because of the physical assets that we have, that may impact you. So we need you to come back. The second part of this is these companies no longer have to really be, it's not an employee's market right now. It's an employer's market right now, because especially in the tech space, there have been a lot of layoffs over the last year. So there are tons of people out there looking for jobs and to get a job would be very happy to go into the office.
Yeah.
So they're like, if you want to quit, I mean, quit. I mean, because we got people waiting
on
to
the
come
bench.
in. They may not want to come into the office, but to get a job, to pay for their life, I mean, they're going to do what they have to do. So it's not one of those things where it's like, before it was employees were like, we got to make this work from home. thing work. We got to do the best because people are going to roll and then we're going to be screwed. That's not the case right now. So they
Right.
have options and they're leveraging those options and saying, well, if you don't like it here, then you can go somewhere else. Nice
Yep.
having you, but thanks, but no thanks.
Yep, yep. We will definitely see who wins this. Will it be the employers who write the checks, or is it the employees who provide the manpower, the labor to actually make these companies profitable? Time
Yep.
will tell. All
Absolutely.
right. So that is it for second string. We're going to move into For the Culture, where we talk all things social or social media. And I thought this was funny because we all know, especially sports fans specifically, if you are a diehard sports fan or you are a diehard fan of your particular team, the referees can tend to draw the most ire as far as people upset, right? You know, referees historically have been known to keep their mouths shut in response or when it comes to, you know, responding to criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure they get a lot of it, you know,
Absolutely.
especially on social media when,
From
you know,
all sides,
from all sides, from coaches, from players to
fans,
fans to
yeah,
everybody, right? So
players,
they
families, all that.
right. But yeah, what I put in the notes, refs have feelings and Twitter burner accounts too, because this recent story that I found was, as of this show airs on Friday, but as of the time we're recording, the NBA has announced that it is closing its investigation into a referee, Eric Lewis, as he informed the league that he's retiring. So what happened was the NBA was investigating this dude ever since May, after allegations began to surface that a burner account from Twitter was linked to Eric Lewis, and he was firing.
Them
His
Twitter
Twitter.
fingers was
Yeah, I
firing.
mean, because the reason why, and you know, it's kind of hard, if not impossible, to link somebody to a burner account. If you know, kind of hide your identity, you know, you can do some tricks, tech tricks to where they can't really point that back at you, right?
Yeah.
Unless there is a trend or a not a trend, not a trend, what's another word for a trend, a consistency, I'm at loss of words today. We'll call it a trend of how you are tweeting. And this guy Eric Lewis had a clear
An aesthetic.
a clear it, it was clear that he
It
was
was him.
using it. Well, not, it was clear that it was him because the tweets that this burner account would respond to were all tweets about Eric Lewis. So he wasn't responding about referees in general. He wasn't responding to football referees. He wasn't talking about soccer. He wasn't talking about baseball. He was talking about NBA criticism of NBA refs, and even more specifically, criticism of Eric Lewis. So this burner account, every time somebody mentioned Eric Lewis, that he's favored in teams, you know, this call is crazy, this burner account will respond to all of those to all of those tweets. And so, you know, a trend was clear and evident. And there's this one, I'm on CBS, CBS Sports has a good story on this, to where this one guy, his name is Pablo Escobar. He pretty much captured, and it's a video, but it's a video and it just automatically scrolls down and shows every time somebody says something about this Eric Lewis NBA ref, this other burner account called Cutliff Blair. This Cutliff Blair account will respond to every tweet that mentioned Eric Lewis
This man
being a
would go and
terrible.
search his name, and
Yeah,
whenever it
yeah.
came up,
And
he was like, "Let me get it off."
that's what it burned down to. This, if it's true, and this Eric Lewis was running his burner account, he
Which it
pretty
sounds
much,
like, because he retired.
yeah, right. He pretty much did a set up a filter on his name, and everybody that said something sideways, his burner account jumped in and corrected or came to the side of Eric Lewis. So
Bro,
much so that,
you gotta mix up the burner account.
right,
You can't
exactly.
be single purpose. You gotta mix it up.
Yeah, yeah. So much so that the NBA launched an investigation back in May, pulled him off of some games. So this in May, NBA finals, playoffs, whatever case may be, are still full in swing. So
This
they
account
NBA
went
launched,
dead.
yeah, right. NBA launched the investigation, pulled him off of some of those games. And then before this season start, the investigation was still going. Eric Lewis announces his resignation, and the NBA says, all right, well, we're going to stop investigating you since you have decided to resign. But I just thought this was hilarious. We'll make sure to put the link in the show note. But this dude, Cliff, what's his name? Cutliff Blair.
Cliff Blair.
I mean, he responded to every tweet, apparently, allegedly, to every tweet that mentioned Eric Lewis. So it wasn't hard to do the math.
And the thing is, I get, trying to be savvy, because a lot of times, a lot of these referees, whether it be NFL, whether it be the NBA, they have become sports personalities in their own right.
Sure
People
have.
recognize the referees, they know their names. And when the game comes up, oh, here come XYZ. We already know what this is going to be about. These referees have turned, again, like I said, into personalities, and people know them just as much as they know the players, the coaches, owners, all that stuff. So this particular referee, Eric Lewis, he has been in the NBA for 18 seasons. He's officiated almost 1,100 regular season games, and he worked 82 playoff games, which included 6 NBA finals. So he's been in it for a minute. And so this is what happens, unfortunately, when you're not very tech savvy.
Right.
There is no way that you can have a single purpose account and it not come back to you. Right. You gotta go defend some other referees. You gotta go to
some other sports.
I mean, you gotta
tweet about something else in general.
Random
cats.
Stuff. Make it seem like you're just a regular person.
Right.
You can't just be so singularly focused, because that's how you got outed. And now I don't know how much the NBA pays, but I mean, I hope you got a nice little nest egg set up for yourself.
Well, again, even maybe not more important, but equally as important, one of my phrases is, you only as funky as your last cut, right? People are not going to remember that Eric Lewis was a referee for almost 2 decades and officiated almost 1,100 season games and worked 82 playoff games and 6 NBA finals. All they're going to remember is, that's the dude that quit his job because he was running a Twitter burner account. So it's almost not sacrilege, but it's just a shame that this, otherwise, I don't know if he was actually being a favoritist. I don't know if he was actually a, bad referee. According to all the stats from the NBA, he was good enough to work all these games. So he was good, jury is out on whether or not, and of course, referees miss calls. Referees mess some
make
things
mistakes.
Up.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we all know that. It's just, you are a referee, so you're going to catch this heat, whether it's
and you've
just
been in the
or
season.
Not.
Yeah, and you've been in the league for 18 years, so you know the game. This is not new.
You're going to, as a umpire, a referee, official, whatever you want to call them, they catch it. So the fact that, I don't know if it got to him over the course of all these years. I don't know. Like you mentioned, he's got this new tool, i.e. social media, that he figured, hey, let me defend myself at the very least, and figured he could use a burner account. But again, like you mentioned, you got to be tech savvy and you got to be elusive in order to pull this off.
Can't let him catch you, bro.
And he wasn't neither of those. He wasn't elusive or
He
tech
was not
savvy at
smart.
all,
Not smart.
which
And yeah,
social media got him in trouble.
social Twitter CSI will find you.
Yes.
They will. Even the best sneaks, they find you.
Yep.
And this guy just kind of laid it out, come find me. I got like, I just dropped my pin basically.
Yeah,
To
basically.
you. And so I looked it up, and NBA refs make an entry level ref makes about $600 per game, which is about $250,000 a year.
Mhm.
And the most seasoned referees earn up to about 3,500 per game, or 550,000 annually. And these are just the regular season game. This doesn't include like, playoffs, which get a significant bump. So he was
messed all that up because he's
good.
in his feelings.
In his feelings. You was doing good, bro. You was doing good. And now look at you.
And most refs, whether you love them or hate them, people, especially like you mentioned, now they're becoming personalities. The cream rises to the crop, and whether you never made a mistake or you made mistakes every once in a while, people respect. It's just, this is a different age, and people are going to tweet at you or tweet about you and not have any sort of personal feelings, ill will, or whatever the case may be. Instead of yelling at their TV, ref, you suck. They on Twitter, ref, you suck.
Ref, you suck.
So the fact that it's just, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Right now we got Twitter, now we got social media, but we still ref, you suck. Right. Yeah. So the fact that he, most
he was
refs,
in his feelings.
Right. Most refs, rise above that, I would assume. Most refs keep it professional. They leave work at home. When they're off the clock, they go home and live their regular lives, unlike even as personalities, right? You mentioned someone becoming personalities. These refs can still go to the grocery store. They can still take their kids to the movies. They can still go on vacation. They can go to the mall. Ain't nobody going to recognize them. Unlike NBA players, NFL players, other sports players, they can't go nowhere. Everybody's all in their face, right?
Right.
So most refs can leave work at work and go home, live their regular lives. But the fact that he decided, you know what, I'm going to take work with me, take it home with me. Now he's out of a job, which is just crazy.
And pretty well known for not all that he done before, but for this one particular thing.
It's the last cut. All right. So that's all I have for the culture. We're going to move into the hookup. And this is a tip that I need to remind myself that I need to use more often, especially for, I don't have the biggest hands, I will freely admit that. But I do have one of the biggest phones in the 14 Pro Max, and, very few and far between I can use it with one hand. But there is a tip or a feature in the keyboard on an iPhone that enables you to shift the whole entire keyboard to the left or to the right, depending on how you use, what hand you are, or what hand you are prone to use your phone with, to where it makes one hand typing so much easier. And basically how you do that is whenever you are on your iPhone keyboard, like you're in a text field somewhere where you want to type, like in a text message, if you press and hold the globe at the lower left-hand side of the keyboard, it gives you the options at the bottom to where a keyboard with an arrow pointing to the left and an keyboard with the arrow pointing right, and then a regular keyboard in the middle. If you highlight the left one, it'll shift the whole keyboard over and kind of shrink it and condense it to where you can then use your one thumb and actually reach all of the keys. And then when you're done, you can either tap the little arrow and it'll make on the left, on the empty space of the screen that's been condensed, it'll make the keyboard go back to the regular side. Or if you press and hold that globe again and then move your finger up to the middle, it'll put it back. So that is my tip for the week. If you do have a smaller hand or a larger phone and you do find yourself have to use two fingers all the time, you can use that tip to actually slide the whole keyboard over, which will enable you to use one thumb or one finger to actually type while still holding the phone.
Cool.
So that is it for the hookup. And I think that's going to do it for this week's show. Nica, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva pretty much everywhere.
Yep. And you can find me at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. If you want to talk to us on the show, you can go to our social media handles at SnobOScast. You can go to the website to where you can get the latest episodes. You can find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, rather. You can find us on where are we at? We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on
Google.
Google Podcasts, so I think is turning into YouTube. And where's
It's one more.
I can't think of the name.
Amazon.
Wait. Yes, Amazon. You find us Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon. But you can get all that information if you go to the website. You can go to snoboscast.com. In addition to that, if you want to become a supported member, i.e., give us a couple coins, you can go to snoboscast.com as well and find that information to support us financially. If you do support us financially, you do get some perks. We have our Snobist community to where you get the show early. Actually, you can listen to us as we record the show live. And we also upload the show to Patreon faster than actually the show comes out. The show normally comes out on Fridays, but if you are a Snobist in the Snobist community, you'll get it, if not live, you'll get it on a day early. So that's our thank you for being a supporter. Definitely, like I mentioned, you can go to snoboscast.com to get all that information. But until next week, we're out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.